What's up, guys? This is Carter Thomas with Coin Mastery TV Friday TGIF edition. We are back. We finally have something to talk about in the crypto markets. How exciting is that? So we're going to talk specifically about Bitcoin and Ripple today. For all of you Ripple fans out there, I can't tell if the Ripple thing is like a bot farm or if people are just that fired up about it. Whatever it may be, good news for Ripple people out there, potentially at least in the short term. Talk about what's going on, why it's happening, potentially why it's happening, and what you can do about it. And then I want to end with one of my favorite anecdotes from a great book, Reminiscence of a Stock Operator, which I think you guys will find very, some people will like it. All right, so let's just dive right in. Don't forget to subscribe. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the thumbs up button. Yes, crush it. All links in the description. Sign up for the newsletter. Everything. Great stuff. Looking at Bitcoin, we've had a really good run, and you guys, you've told you what I'm doing, which is dollar cost averaging. For the past week and a half, 2 weeks or so, that's been my approach. I've only done it twice, right? I've actually only executed twice. But as far as I'm concerned, until we get out of this kind of lower high, higher low, like this consolidation, accumulation, whatever it is, I'm not really interested in looking at Bitcoin as a trending market. That is why I'm just, hey, dollar cost average, if it goes down, it goes down. If it goes up, it goes up. But I'm not focused on that. That's how I'm playing it. Other people may be playing it differently, especially people that are trying to do the short-term scalping, swing trading, things like that. We're seeing some really good juice, some really good progress that's coming out. If you look at a longer time frame, so for anybody listening on the podcast, move myself over, you guys can see the prices if you're watching. You can see that we are obviously having some sort of consolidation. We are holding this support line above 5,800, right around 6,000, and we're bouncing off of it. The next big test is going to be if we can get above this 7,500 area. And then if we get above 7,800, that's when you start to see the actual momentum shifting. It's not just now we're in a sideways pattern instead of a downward pattern. So I'm just watching this. I'm taking it pretty slow and just accumulating, just slowly accumulating. I don't care if it goes up, if it goes down. That's the way I'm playing it, because I think Bitcoin's still got a lot of price discovery. It's like one day it's the most bullish news comes out, the next day it's the most bearish news. And that's just not really, that's not the game I want to play at this point with Bitcoin. But let's talk about what's going on in the overall market. Now you can see that Bitcoin is, let's go zoom in here to the 1 hour. Unsurprisingly, especially with the dominance, if and when Bitcoin goes up, so does everything else. So if we go over to coin market cap, you can see that in the last day, 2 days, for anybody who's been watching, we've had some pretty significant pumps, most specifically with Ripple, which is now number 2 on coin market cap. That's obviously up for debate. I get it. Some people will look at the total market cap versus the available supply. So, because there's billions of tokens in Ripple, and same with Stellar in how you measure it. But for all intents and purposes, let's just look at that. And if you look at the chart, I zoomed in here to the 5 minutes so you guys can see what I'm looking at. I'm just looking at the Ripple Bitcoin 5 minute. And you can see, how many times have we seen this, this shape curve? Whether you're on the 1 minute, whether you're on the daily, it's the same thing over and over and over. Now, I'm not saying anything, I don't know. I actually think Ripple, I think that from what I've talked to people, from people I've met who are connected to the Ripple company, Ripple actually has some really good talent, right? They have really good developers. Are they worth $26 billion? Can you even measure a market cap based on token value? That's all up for debate, in my opinion. But all I really care about is, what does this chart look like? Because at the end of the day, that's all you can really do in these speculative markets. And so what this chart looks like, well, this looks like a pretty classic bubble, if you ask me, right? You get this slow accumulation, a bump, another accumulation, a bump, all the way up to this blow off top, and right now we are printing the second kind of, oh no, it's not done yet. Let's see if I can pump it up again. Maybe this is the beginning of a new bull run, and then we go from there. Could this continue to blow up? Yeah, great. But this is a difficult game to play. It's hard to win over the long term. But if you do it right, you can make a ton of money. So for anybody who has done that, hats off to you. So we'll see how this plays out. Now, here's the most important part. And I think that this is what why I wanted to make the video. The question everybody asks on Twitter and Telegram, Slack, Discord, wherever you're hanging out, why is this happening? So I look through a bunch of articles. This is just the classic one. You go to CoinDesk and you talk about, now this isn't even very new, but this was yesterday evening. And it basically comes down to, there's this news coming out about their potential integrations, about their potential protocol, like the Rails system, XRapid and all that. I believe they have a conference. There's just all this stuff that, anybody who's been in crypto for a year or 2 years, and I don't consider myself by any means like a full expert on this stuff, but I do consider myself much more well-versed than most people because I spend all my time dissecting this market, other markets, seeing how it all works together. And what I've learned is that the news like this is a convenient way to justify something that nobody really knows what's going on, or a very small group of people know what's going on. And that is why, in my opinion, you just can't trust news. You can't trust announcements when you're talking about multi-billion-dollar moves. Okay, there's something much bigger going on behind the scenes that nobody really knows, or at least they don't know yet, and maybe they will down the road. But especially when it comes to this kind of price action. And so what I want to do is talk about my personal opinion about one potential way that this could be going down. Okay. Now, I personally really think that I would be remiss if I didn't say this. If you did want to trade this, obviously you can go on exchanges, you can do a lot of things, but this is the kind of situation where I think leverage is helpful, right? Where you can go on something like BitMEX. And I know a lot of people don't like BitMEX for whatever reason. I mean, it's, have your own opinions, but this is a really good reason if you do want to take some sort of, you see the momentum flying up and you do want to get that leverage on BitMEX. This is when you can ride the wave with a much smaller amount. And yes, the chances of you losing that amount are smaller, but these parabolic moves, this is when leverage does get interesting, because you kind of get in and you get out without really getting burned. Your risk capital can be a lot lower. And obviously BitMEX can offer Ripple, can offer Tron, excuse me. So I think this is a good situation where if you're going to trade it, you got to look at the contract dates. You probably want to trade the December 28th the futures contract that expires on December 28th, not on September 28th, because September 28th, if you get stuck in a position or whatever, you only have 7 days to close it out. December gives you a few more months. So however you want to play it, or if you go and you buy a bunch on Binance, you can come on BitMEX and you can hedge your bets with 1/5 of the position and go short. So, you kind of offset your potential losses, so to speak. So this is just the kind of thing that if you're going to trade, if you're going to mess with this kind of thing, have a plan. BitMEX is a great place to have that plan, in my opinion. Liquidity is not as good. Right now, it's pretty good as something like Binance, but it is really good. The premium on the price is a little high, in my opinion. So if you're interested in that, go check it out, coinmaster.com/BitMEX, because I do think that that's what smart traders do. It's not speculative. It's not crazy. It's just that's what you do when you want to make a strategy out of it. Here's what I think. And I know people are going to disagree with me on this. Some people are going to think this is bananas. That's twice I've used bananas. No, it's not Banana Town. Chill out. There's a great book, Reminiscence of a Stock Operator. I've talked about this many times. I would recommend everybody check that book out, especially if you're interested in how whales and markets operate within people who have a lot of money. But here's a story. And this is not exactly how it goes down in the book. Paraphrasing. Jesse Livermore, who's the main character, I believe it's him, gets a tip that there is a stock is about to go way down. So he's all fired up, and he goes into one of his brokerage, the places where they read the tape and you can put down your trades. And he goes to the top speculator and he says, "Hey man, I got a hot tip. This company is about to go way down." And the speculator looks at him, looks at the tape, looks back at him, and walks up to the trading desk and says, "Okay, start buying it." And Livermore looks at him and he's like, "Dude, I just told you it's going way down. Like, this is very, very good information. Why are you buying it?" The speculator looks at him, looks at the tape, and he says, "Keep buying more." Livermore's like, "What are you doing, dude? This is insane. Why are you buying a stock that you know is going down?" These traded stocks, obviously, back in the 1920s, that whole kind of turn of the century type thing. They didn't have crypto back then. And so this guy's buying and buying and buying. And then he stops, and then he sits there and he just looks at the ticker tape. Or, he reads the ticker tape, looks at the boards, they're writing up in chalk or whatever they did. And Livermore's like, "Dude, you just bought all this stock of you're gonna lose so much money." And then the speculator looks at him, looks back at the tape, and he turns to the broker and goes, "Okay, now I want you to go sell 5,000 shares of that stock." Broker's like, "Okay," goes and sells it. And when he sells it, he sees the price start to move down briefly, more so than it would have on something that was bullish. So this is a tell to the speculator. It says, okay, now that there is all this new people that rushed in because they saw me bidding up the price, all these new people came in and bought up all these shares. But the underlying momentum, the underlying forces on this stock are still bearish. It's still going to go down, but the speculator created all the liquidity underneath it. So when he sees this, he turns around and he goes back to the broker and he says, "Okay, sell all the stock and then sell an extra 100,000 shares short." And the broker's like, "What? You just bought up however much." Because the speculator knows that he just created an artificial liquidity pool where he can dump all his shares, and he knows that the momentum is going to go way back down. But he needed to do that in order to test the market and also to dump all of his stuff. And lo and behold, he sells all his shares. The stock starts to go down way faster than a normal stock would because it has that bearish short selling underneath it, and it just collapses. And the guy makes a ton of money on the shares that he sold short. He turns to Livermore and he says, "Listen, I knew you were right, or I had a very good idea." This guy was, a pro. He goes, "I had a very good idea that you were right about that stock, but I couldn't just go out and just start shorting it. I needed to make sure." And so what he did is he went out and he created a big enough position where he could test it. He could make sure that if he did sell it, it would move the whole market down. And that's what he did. I do not know if that's what's happening in Ripple right now. I have no idea who's buying, who's selling. I don't know how many different accounts there are, whatever. But what I do know is that there are not a lot of different strategies out there that market makers and market speculators use when they have a lot of money. If you have, I don't know, 25, 50, $100 million position in a coin, and you're bearish on it, maybe you know something that other people don't know. You're like, a lot of people think that that's a sign that you should sell it But in crypto, that's actually a sign that you should start pumping it. Because if you don't pump it, you can't dump $50 million worth of, let's say, Ripple or whatever your coin is, any of the coins out there. You can't dump in the market if there's no liquidity. So you need to pump it first, knowing that it's going to go down at some point, and then it dumps. I have no idea if this is what's going to happen with Ripple. All I know is that was a very, very good story from the book, and I've seen it happen over and over and over and over again in markets like this. And when I see articles like on CoinDesk where they're kind of like trying to make up reasons why this is happening, it becomes more and more clear to me that somebody is trying to make it happen. And as we're watching this in real time, it's dumping, right? It's following the exact bubble chart. Look at the volume, the liquidity pool that was created. And if we had any sort of data science where we could find a way to see how many addresses accounted for all of this, I bet it would come back where there's a handful of addresses that dumped a lot of Ripple right within this top area. So it's just good to know how these games are being played. And you can draw your own conclusions. I hope you draw your own conclusions and you don't listen to some random dude on the internet about whatever. But these stories are tried and true. So, bottom line with Bitcoin, continue my plan, dollar cost average. I'm not going to chase it. I'm not going to freak out if it dumps or if it pumps. I don't care. I'm just going to keep going dollar cost averaging for the foreseeable future. If you do want to, if you see more of these altcoins go up, start to pump, start to look like they will pump, in my opinion, I think the best way to do it is you can buy it on something like Binance or Bittrex or wherever you're trading your spot coins, and then have a hedge over on something like BitMEX, right? Where you can use leverage in a very smart way so that you're not totally exposed, and you can go short with a leveraged position that's much, much smaller than what you're actually buying on the spot exchanges. And finally, always question why things are happening. Because in markets, you got to remember, somebody's always winning and somebody is always losing. And if you don't know who that is, chances are, markets it's trying to take all your money. So, you just got to remember that at all times. Markets are always trying to take your money. They are not friendly in that way. And so you always want to be asking yourself, who's on the other side of this trade? What's their motivation? Cool. Well, I hope that helps. This week, I've actually recorded a bunch of videos that I will publish probably next week about how to get started in things like equities, stocks, futures. If you ever wanted to, hey, here's what it is. Here's how you get started. Here's what to do. I did a bunch of videos on BitMEX that I think will be really helpful for beginners. Kind of quash a bunch of it's 100x, you're going to lose all your money. That's just, because frankly, that's what I thought at first. And now it's very ignorant of me to think. So I want to clear the air. I'll put that up next week. A couple of them out there. Hopefully it'll help you guys out. And in the meantime, I hope you guys have a great weekend. Yes. Crush it. All right, guys. Have a great weekend. Peace out.